All right, so Deb Swoboda sharing testimony of coming back to Christ, coming back to God. Why don't you tell us your story?
My story is two stories in one. The Old Testament of Hannah, who could not bear a child, and the New Testament story of the prodigal son. I was raised Catholic, and I am very grateful for that Catholic upbringing because it gave me a solid foundation for which I am today. I don't think I would be where I am today without that. Without my parents taking me to church every Sunday, without CCD classes, youth group, confirmation classes, all of that made me who I am today. I became born again at the age of 16 when I went to a Petra concert. Many people may not even have ever heard of Petra, but they're a classic rock group, Christian rock group. And I became very involved with youth group, very excited, very zealous for God, but I wasn't dedicated to Him. And after high school, I wanted to go to college, but I did not go to college. I gave up. I lacked the confidence to do well in college, and we didn't have the funds either, so I didn't go. And my dream was to get married and have a whole bunch of kids. I was hoping that would happen right after high school. And it didn't happen, and my friends fell away. And the church that I went to was a very small church, so we didn't have very many. We didn't have things like small groups and things like that. I basically went to church and came home, and so eventually I just stopped going to church without the fellowship. And then I started living in the world. I lived with a man for several years that was abusive, and finally I moved from Racine to Eau Claire, and shortly after I moved to Eau Claire, I met my husband, and we got married and wanted children right away, and that didn't happen. At my heaviest weight, I was over 300 pounds. I had type 2 diabetes, I had high cholesterol, I had high blood pressure, and then I also could not get pregnant. We kept trying and trying. We went through infertility treatments. Nothing happened. When I hit 30, I became very depressed to the point where my mom had actually thought my husband was abusing me. And it was just the fact that I didn't have babies. It was very hard to deal with. And Mother's Day was the worst. Being a stepmother was hard. And when I had lost another job was when I had hit bottom. I was talking to my brother who was recently born again. And he had told me, Dad, maybe you're not doing what God wanted you to do. And as soon as he told me that, I realized that I needed to come back to Him. So slowly, I started doing what He wanted me to do. I went back to school because I knew He wanted me to be a teacher. Eventually, in 2012, I had bariatric surgery, and the day after my surgery, I was able to have normal cycles, and a year after my surgery, I conceived my son. 6 months after he was born, I conceived my daughter. That is all God. There's no words to describe how I firmly believe that once saved, always saved, because even though I didn't spend several years not living for Him, He was always in my heart. And I always desired to come back to Him. I just didn't have the push to come back to Him. and He was always calling me back. The message that I just want to portray is God never gives up on you, no matter what. And don't give up on Him.
Great. Thank you, Deb, for sharing that. Awesome.